HarperCollins presents The Secrets of Harbour House by Liz Fenwick. Read by Laura Kirman. Prologue, 28th of March 2003. S.W. Barton Auctioneers was empty as Dad and I entered the building and walked through the artwork-lined hallway and past a Louis XIII chest of drawers tucked under the stairs. I loved these Sunday mornings when Mum was volunteering and it was just the two of us in the auction house. This was the routine he and I had fallen into ever since he'd first brought me here on a Sunday when I was 6. We'd been doing it for 5 years, and it was always an adventure. "Well, Kerensa, what shall we do?" he asked as we bypassed his office and went into the showroom. Paintings covered the dividers and walls. Sometimes there were 3 or more hung above each other, and sometimes just one large one. Like my favourite abstract picture, all in blues. It was like the sky on a summer's day. Dad picked up a strange still life off the top of the display case. Everything he'd chosen in the past had come with a story. It could be a tale of exotic origins, previous owners, even murderers. The more stories an item held, the more interesting for me and the more value to Dad. I think he secretly wanted to run a museum rather than be the person selling on these things. He told me stories about a ruby from a scorned lover, a handbag from a minister's mistress, a self-portrait of an artist who hated themselves, and my favourite, a stuffed rabbit that had inspired a children's tale. He held out his other hand, and together we went to the biggest room upstairs. There was an old sofa against the wall that had been sold but never collected. It was covered in a fabric that looked like a Turkish carpet. We sat down on it, and he handed me the funny painting. "What can you tell me about this?" he asked, like he always did. The first thing I noticed was it was heavier than I expected. It was of a vase with red roses in a slim gold frame. "Why does it weigh so much?" He took off his glasses and polished them. "You tell me." "It's not like that Russian painting all done with a palette knife and so much paint." "True." He leaned back. I loved this game we played. We never rushed it. My favourite time had been with an Easter egg covered in bright green enamel and coloured jewels. Its story had been sad, but it held a small chick which chirped loudly when the egg was opened. I'd so wanted to keep it, but like all these things, it went to sale. Dad said that was how he became part of the object's story. I'd rather have kept it. "Well," he prompted. I turned it over like he'd taught me. The canvas was a bit scrappy with uneven edges. It distracted from the stretchers that made the canvas taut. "The wood of the stretchers is so different to the usual." "How so?" I studied them. "They're a darker colour and the grain of the wood is denser." "Good." He watched me with a big smile on his face. "There's no writing or mark to say it's been sold through an auction house." "Well remembered." I made a face at him. "Why wouldn't I remember? You only told me to look out for that last month." He laughed. Normally I figured out the story quickly, but with no marks and no signature, this was hard. I flipped it over again. It was a boring painting, and I couldn't see what was important about it. Or had I missed something? He'd told me that many times the back of the painting could be more interesting and more important to us Bartons than the front. By looking closely, we could see what others had missed. This meant we could tell a better, more complete story about the object, which would increase the interest in it. I hadn't understood this at first, but now I did. The more intrigue in the story around the piece, the more it was worth. He'd explained it was like the Duchess of Windsor's jewels. Without her ownership, they were simply diamonds and emeralds. But because they were hers, they had extra glamour, history, and value. The story made all the difference. I balanced
Sample complete. Ready to continue?